Hey, what's up everybody? Lawler here for your one-stop shop, all things Rocket League news. If you guys don't know what's going on this weekend, it's the Spring Series for Rocket League. If you guys don't know what that is, $125,000 tournament that's going on for the European region. They've done one for OCE, South America, and North America in the past with varying prize pools. But this Saturday and Sunday, it is Europe's turn. They ended up doing open qualifiers earlier in the week, and now they're finally moving on into the closed qualifiers with a lot of varying results that we're seeing. If you guys enjoy the content, as always, make sure you hit subscribe, turn on notifications, as well as hit the like button down below, as all that stuff does greatly help me out. And the more questions, comments, concerns you guys have, the better. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first things first, what we're going to end up doing is kind of covering the qualifier and then moving in from there. In the open qualifier, and the way that the teams kind of made it is the top 4 teams in the regional championship are the ones that automatically got bid a spot. So Dignitas, Barcelona, Vitality, and Mouse are your top 4 teams from the regional. Then ran an open massive bracket where a bunch of teams signed up and tried to compete. And the 4 that made it through are Endpoint, the Clappers, Canyons, and Team BDS. So Team BDS, you guys may recognize, they were the team that was the number 1 in the RLRS. They ended up qualifying after dropping in the uppers. And then Canyons also knocked out a notable team in Oxygen Esports. If you guys don't know Oxygen or didn't watch the latest video that we just did, that is the old Reciprocity squad now put on with the new org. They ended up losing Magnifico, and then Canyons beat them. And then, yeah, a lot of upsets, a lot of teams that are struggling to stay in that top 4. I have concerns on if they're going to make roster changes or not, and whether that's going to continue to stay with the same issues that they've been having for quite a while, because they have not been trending since pretty much beyond the summit when they were super competitive against Energy. So we'll see how that applies. Right at the top, we got Dignitas, Violent Panda, Yukio, and Astral. What I consider probably the best and most consistent team in the world right now. Like if we ran a world championship, I could see either Dignitas, G2, or probably Vitality winning it, only because Vitality is this weird wild card, but we'll get into them later. Dignitas to me right now is the most well put together team. Always good communication, the ability to find each other. I think Violent Panda is so underrated and continues to be underrated in what he brings as a captain. Just his comms and the ability to take a step back from his game to provide information to his teammates is what makes them so strong. Panda and I have taken numerous times to sit and kind of chat and talk about their situation. And honestly, I become more and more impressed each time that we do get to hang out. So you're coupling that with Astral, who is one of the best players in the world. The only difficulty with him, though, is he is very emotional. When things do not go his way, he tends to tilt, he tends to let out frustration, and it can take away from what they're trying to accomplish. And credits to Verge trying to reel that back in. But both he and Yukio tend to butt heads quite a bit. But overall, this is a team that, in my opinion, is probably one of, if not the best in the world. And I expect them to continue to do so. I know they work hard, and they are a team that is very motivated through and throughout. They've got a really good backing from their organization with mental coaches and stuff, which are helping out the issues with Astral. But I have high expectations of Dignitas to actually win this whole thing. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Moving on to their opponents, we got Canyons coming up at his stake, Tox, and Zamui. Sorry if I butcher that, Z-A-M-U-E with the weird apostrophe bullshit. I don't know. Either way, Canyons, pretty talented team. I mostly know Tox and Zam. The big concern that I have with them is looking up their history is they don't really have any notable wins. They haven't won any major matches over RLCS teams, nor have they had the chances to do so. So this can be your wildcard team if you're looking for an underdog story, but Tox is known actually to live up to his name and be toxic in situations where things don't go his way. So possibly an emotional player there where things can tilt if they don't start off early. And in a team like Dignitas, they will punish you for those types of mistakes. They are a team that does have stellar moments on offense. They can do the flashy plays and the exciting things. They're just rather inconsistent with it. Kind of a risk-reward situation where, yes, they're going up and trying to apply pressure, but yes, they're also easily counterattacked. Dignitas is going to shut that stuff out. They're one of the best at reading passes because honestly, Dignitas is the best team in the world at doing passes. So we'll see how that plays out. My recommendation is keep an eye on Tox, as Tox is one of the better players and more mechanical players. But again, inconsistency has always been their trouble. Either way, Dignitas should probably win this one. For those that don't know this roster, this is actually the old RCD squad, so keep that in mind. Next match on the list is going to be FC Barcelona versus Endpoint, 2 RLCS rosters with some different changes. Same roster with Devo, Roniki, and Flakes. But my curiosity is more so about what Barcelona we're going to get. Barcelona during the RLCS season was actually one of my favorites to watch. A lot of creativity, a lot of control on offense. Devo, we finally got to see back to his original origins of how good he was as a dribbler, the ability to dictate the pace. And then that was coupled with Flakes being capable of being able to slow it down and kind of push it forward and take that methodical approach. And we had a lot of concerns about how he was just going to get dunked because people aren't going to wait. They're just going to challenge him. But he actually chose to lead that into passing crossfield and opening up opportunities because people had to respect the fact of his ground game. So that was great when it started, but then it took away and it just decreased. And we saw this really developed Barcelona regressing. And then Ronicky was only the really positive light in that entire roster. Quite honestly, Ronicky was the only consistent player on that roster. And I think that's part of the issue. Is we've always had concerns with Devo, where Devo has pop-off potential. He has the ability to be the best player on the field. He is a former world champ, but when are we going to see him be the captain and be the one to dictate? Someone who takes that role from like Violent Panda, where they come in and say, yo, I'm going to be the ones to propel us to that next level. Someone needs to take that leadership role and move and step up, because right now Barcelona, it just feels like that's lacking. And Ronicky, although he remains a wild card on the team and kind of just fills in roles and is there to tie things together, his communication is very solid. It's just the impact is needed elsewhere. Whether it is Flakes or whether it is Devo, I do not care. One of these players needs to step it up. Opposite end of the coin is going to be Endpoint, and this is actually a really exciting one for me. Endpoint is no longer the Endpoint you know. They, if you guys don't know, ended up getting rid of Nachto. We weren't sure who the replacement was going to be in our video about last week. But it is still Virtuoso and Relating Wave, but they've brought in longtime veteran Metsanaris from TSM. So shoutouts to Mets finding a new roster, and boy oh boy did he look stellar. If you guys did not watch the open qualifiers, Metsanaris popped off with hit and flip resets and redirects off the backboard. It was really exciting to see that a player that a lot of people have given up on really prove his point and prove that he is still a very talented competitor. So really exciting thing about that. The difficulty though is in any of these moments is it tends to be a honeymoon phase. I'm still nervous about whether this is just a one-off thing or if they can continue to replicate this days later with more pressure on the line. Either way, it's a good testament to the team and being able to bounce back and finding a good fit despite all the changes with the pandemic going on. Being able to commit to a player earlier, because that provides more practice time and more ability to grow as a team and try to find out the fundamentals or the practice or the style that's going to happen. When a team gets together, they just play instinctually. They don't really have a game plan or a style that they're trying to create. They just play based upon what they feel is right, and things just kind of fall into slots. And when that happens, sometimes you get this really good Rocket League, but then it gets challenged, and then they have to figure out, well, how do we fix the issues that we're losing to? And that's when you start to see play styles and development happen, more dedicated roles per se, who's going to go first on challenges or kickoffs. So we'll see if the honeymoon phase is enough, but a lot of time to develop for Endpoint. Should be exciting to see them moving forward. They did qualify toward the upper side of the bracket rather than the lower half of the bracket, so they did not lose all the way through, which is super awesome to see Endpoint kind of be in this area, because Endpoint for me during RLRS was always a really exciting team. And they beat two of the teams that are actually in the spring series in BDS and Canyons to qualify. So they've already got a leg up on two of their competitors that they might fight. Next matchup is going to be Renault Vitality versus Team BDS. Vitality is a unique one. So a lot of these teams actually we have not seen since March 29th. Which is the last day of RLCS. Vitality is one of those teams. We have not seen them play in anything since that date, and that concerns me because, putting this out there, Vitality is actually one of the laziest teams in the RLCS. They do not practice outside of the game unless it is K-Dop and the guys playing on stream, Fairy Peak included, but scrims are pretty lackluster. I think it's like an hour a day at most against like true competitive team. Ranked is not a good place for them to develop fundamentals. It's actually a place where they're going to develop bad habits, and it concerns me. I don't know what their regimen is, but I do have some major concerns about Vitality and how lackluster they may look. Vitality is what I consider a wild card. I said this earlier, and it is something that they all have individual skill and they have capabilities to put it together. And if you guys want to think back to when they played Veloce, where they were just toying with their food while two players were fighting to get an assist accolade, Vitality has a chance to be the best team in the world. But as the time continues in this series, Vitality is going to get more warmed up and become better and better, and that is scary for BDS. BDS, on the other hand, if you guys don't know Team BDS, is Marked by 8, ClayX, and Monkey Moon. This team has a lot of potential, very reminiscent to me when Endpoint first came into the scene. True team effort to get victories. This is a team that works really, really well together and has a big upset potential, And I think Vitality being their first opponent is actually a huge advantage. They need to close it out early, though, because as Vitality, like I said, gets warmed up, this is going to create some major issues for BDS. As long as BDS comes out aggressive and leads the charge and really applies it to Vitality, it may shock them into waking up. Either way, Vitality has my vote. But BDS has chance for upset potential. This could be the biggest upset of this tournament. Monkey Moon is probably the player to keep your eyes on. He, other than having a silly name, is probably one of the more gifted players on the team and definitely leads the charge. Also, little fun tip. If you guys don't know what BDS stands for, it is, I'm going to butcher this, Bio de Spolberg. And it's the owner's last name. Kind of a cool little thing I found out from talking with chat today. Last but not least, we got Mousesports versus the Clappers. And honestly, if you guys have ever watched the podcast that I host, the CJ show on Tuesdays, myself, CJ, Jazzo, and Chrome have always been super keen on Mousesports ever since they picked up Scrub. And ironically, after they dropped Scrub and bring in their sub Arju, this is the Mousesports we are looking forward to. And it's interesting because Arju has no RLRS experience, no RLCS experience. He's just a rank S superstar that has some pretty nasty mechanics. And he gets brought in week 8 of league play, dominates a doubleheader, wins both of those to qualify. They then go into regional championship. And since then, they have not lost. The only time Arju has lost in a series is going to Game 7 against Dignitas on that March 29th. So, Mousesports, what's been going on? Because you are also a team we have yet to see like Vitality since the 29th. So, even though that's true about a lot of teams, I have a very good feeling that Lethmere is keeping these guys in line, and they're scrimming heavily based upon inside knowledge that I have from hanging out with Lethmere. But this is a team that could very well punish a lot of players. Cookster seems more confident. A lot of it relies on speed. My eyes are always on speed because when he's confident and he's hitting flip resets, they look good. But a lot of the offense, I think, is relying on speed showing up, which brings confidence into Cookster to move up, and then you get that 3-man rotation. But honestly, Arju's been really consistent. For a rookie, he looks really good, and I'm glad they're giving him a shot because, quite honestly, I'm a huge fan. So it'll be interesting to see if the magic is still there. That's kind of my thoughts on Mousesports, whether we get to see that recreation of the Arju magic. But if I keep hearing people spam Arju kidding me, I'm probably going to go insane. Last but not least, the Clappers. Archie, shout out to Archie for stopping by in chat. Calix and Joras. If you guys do not know these players, the big ones to pay attention to are Joras and Archie, both mechanical fiends. Joras is considered by many of the pros one of the better ones. Another superstar coming up. A lot of notoriety coming from him based upon the community tournaments that he's been playing in. But there's a lot of problems with that. Tons of mechanics, and it's almost too much. A lot of risk reward. They decide to play fast rather over control. If you've ever watched South America at the World Championships, very similar to that, where it is just go all the time, apply a ton of pressure. And if they don't make mistakes, they're really tough to beat. But I can tell you right now, against some of the best in the world, you're going to make mistakes, especially when there's pressure on the line. I did talk to Archie while he was in chat, and their mentality is we have nothing to lose, and that is a great confidence point to have. I also gave him a heads up and be like, you know what, man, you guys have the limelight. Make your impact, get your names out there, do whatever you got to do and start grinding, because this is exactly the opportunity of a person that is 15, very young squad, extremely young squad, who can be emotional or can get tilted or let the best get to them. I tell them, make sure that you enjoy the moment, because it is very rare that you get chances like this to play at the very highest level in front of hundreds of thousands of people. So I think they're excited. I think they're really looking forward to it. I'm obviously keeping my eyes on Joras. He's very good. Game sense is a little lacking. That game IQ is very limited just because they're super committed to going for the ball, and because both players are capable of that, they double commit a lot. So expect a lot of counterattacks from Mousesports. You got Cookster, you know he's going to punish him with a long clear and the ability to just pull out that pinch whenever he wants. You just got to be careful. But I will say the benefits of that playstyle, that chaos that they create, can catch some teams off guard, because it is very weird to read, because there's not anything to read, because it's just reactionary play. So could be interesting. This will be a fun one to watch. Either way, claps in chat for the Clappers. That's going to wrap it up for everything you need to know about the European Spring Series, all the teams, all the players, and stuff like that. If you guys have anything else you would like me to address, comments down below. Ask me away, and I will get to them as quickly as possible. Otherwise, as always, make sure you guys like the video, subscribe, all that fun jazz that I always bitch about. And hopefully we see you guys in the watch parties. Twitch.tv/Lawler all weekend long. Starts at 10 a.m. Central, I'm pretty sure. So we'll be up early for me watching the games all weekend long. It's going to be a fun one. But I hope to see you there. Peace.